Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I was pushed again to say something about what industry needs. And to be very honest, industry is pushing itself to find out and define what it needs. We're still in the middle of that process. Maybe I should say that we're at the beginning of the process, but I'll come to that in a minute. Because to introduce this topic, when the Commission I believe it must have been 2009-10 started to talk about let's work on a European bioeconomy in a bio-based industry, they invited the bio-based industry to come and sit at the table and be the partner with the union, represented by the Commission, in a joint undertaking. At that time, there was no such thing like a bio-based industry in Europe. So we got together as industry. I was working in the chemical industry at that time. And we pulled together everybody we thought must play a role in a bio-based industry or in a bioeconomy. And we got together at a table, industry sectors that were never traditional partners of each other. To be very honest, I worked for decades in the chemical industry. I never saw a farmer until the very last part. I never worked with anybody in the forestry, and you name it. We were silos. So when we started together at a table back in 2012, we had this dream. And the dream was that here's where we come from. You see, all these industry sectors, we were silos with huge gaps between us, hardly knew each other. There was no such thing, or almost not such thing as streams going from one sector to the other and be used as feed or whatever. There was none. So we came up with this dream to say, okay, now this is where we want to go. We want to start building bridges. And you see now I changed, gradually I use the word now value systems, because this is where we today really want to go. I stopped talking about value chains because value chain, the way it has been used so far, implies something still like a linear. We want to get away from linearity. So I started talking about systems. And the word system is something that I'm using every time I speak, everywhere, to force down this systemic thinking. So this is what we are doing now, and this is where we really want to go. So this is our dream. There is no such gap. There is one almost homogeneous field where you still have these specific industry sectors, but we are almost intimately linked together. This is our dream. So there's a lot, and you see I'm talking about circular, bio-based ecosystems and across industry sectors and across Europe. So before we get there, let me lead you to what it is that I'm going to talk to this afternoon to try and share with you what it is that we're trying to do. First, I would like to put in perspective, what is it that we're talking about, this bioeconomy and the bio-based sector? What is it in terms of money and people? And maybe the quality of the people at this moment. Then what the heck is big? You know, you saw it there mentioned, well, what is big? And I mentioned big in a while. What are we? And then I'll talk about deploying a sustainable circular bio-based industry across Europe, what it is that we are doing now and what others are doing that we think we can build on and work together with. And I'll come to the crux of this gathering here, and it is what are the skills and competences needed to realize all these dreams that we have today. Good. So to put the bioeconomy in perspective, we have now annually, we commission a study or a survey or a report by Nova in Germany, and it looks at the bioeconomy as a whole. And in particular, we are interested in the industrial sector of the bio-based industry. So this is a picture of the bioeconomy as a whole in terms of turnover and in terms of employment. You see, we're talking about 2.43 trillion euro. These are figures of 2019. Okay, you always run, of course, a couple of years behind. So this is not small peanuts. This is already a huge part of the European economy. 2.4 trillion, and you see there subdivided, and you see that the bulk comes from food and feed, and others are mentioned and indicated there, and I will dive into this in a minute. In terms of, and this has been increasing, I'll come to that in a minute as well, and this is in terms of the people employed, 17.6 million people. This is also not small change anymore. So this industrial sector, this bioeconomy, this part of our European economy is growing, and it's growing pretty fast. I should say that what is growing fast is the turnover. The employment at this moment is still declining, and I will come to that in a minute. So I show you there a few numbers and a few statements. You see that the employment has been lowering, has been decreasing since 2008. 2008 was the beginning of this series of reports, and the main cause for this is because of increased productivity, increase and introduction of technologies that increases efficiency, and this is mainly taking place in the agricultural sector. Now, if I dive into the bio-based industry itself, so now I'm looking at the industrial sectors alone. So I exclude this, if you can still read it, and Simon will share this with everybody. So I'm excluding the primary sectors and only looking at the industrial sectors. Is this sharp? Can you read what's there? If not, I'll just turn it down. No, just kidding. So you see here, I'm spelling out what these sectors are of the industry. So from pharmaceuticals, chemicals and plastics, bioenergy, biofuels, paper and product, paper and paper, paper and wood, and it should be there. Paper and cardboard, forest-based, and textiles. And you see here that the largest ones are forest-based, paper and the paper products, I should say, and the pharmaceuticals. This is in terms of turnovers. And the largest growers are, as expected, the chemicals and plastics and pharmaceuticals. These are where today we put in most of bio-based or sustainable development and applications and products. When we look at the employment as a total, so you see this is the total European, so including the primary sectors, the 70.6 I mentioned a while ago, you see that the bulk here, this 50% is in agriculture. And what I'm really interested in now, because I'm responsible for in Big Four skills and competences, I'm really interested in what are the education levels. We don't have that data yet, not in all these sectors. I'm working with Nova to try and get as much as we can. The only part that we have are these, and it shows that as a combination, about 40% have primary education, 46 secondary, and almost 14% have tertiary. And these are EUQF level expressions. So these data here are about the same that you would expect in others. It is not. Some sectors, the percentage of higher education is substantially higher. But if I look at the totality, the information that I have so far now, the industry is represented in big, roughly, when I talk about higher education, I really mean EQF level 7 and higher, so masters, etc. And the others are not lower, but lower than that. I'm talking roughly about 20% is in level 7 and higher, and 80% is not. And this is, we don't expect it will change that much in the coming years. But in some sectors, you will see some differences and some pretty big developments coming. Now, the employment, if you look at the industry alone, is this 3.6, and you see that a big part of that is in the forest and forest-based industry. So again, this is a growing sector in terms of economic force, but still we are seeing a decline in its totality of employment. But in the years to come, we expect that decrease to halt and to start increasing again. But one thing that we definitely know, this is already ongoing now, is the shift in skills. The shift in skills demanded by our industry sectors. Now let me go into what is BIC itself, BioBased Industries Consortium. We are a non-profit organization. We're based in Brussels, and we have among our members both industry and non-industry members. And the numbers are about 240 to be exact. Today, it's 241 to be exact members. And these are large and small companies. And the division, because I always say this, because particularly politicians believe this is all big companies. It's not. Only 20%, again, the Pareto rule is here also valid, only 20% of our industry members are large enterprises. 80% are SMEs. So it's SME, and it's not surprisingly so, because a lot of innovation nowadays in any field is driven by SMEs. And large enterprises are supportive, and they're making sure that ideas get to fruition. But SMEs are very, very important for us, and we can boast that among all joint undertakings in Europe, in the frameworks of the innovation frameworks by the Commission, our joint undertaking has been the most successful in terms of aiding, supporting SMEs. The other part of our members are associate members. These are mainly universities, research centers, trade associations, etc. The huge part of this are universities and research centers. You see, what we are trying to do is combine, and I'll show you a different slide in a minute here, is our vision is to make Europe's innovative, sustainable and competitive bio-based industry the leader of a circular bio-society in Europe by 2050. And the name we use here is bio-society because we really want to have society involved and participating. The way that we work we have 4 pillars, to say so. The first one is to support this joint undertaking that we have with the Commission. The second one, business, we facilitate. These are the 3 others are mainly to help our members. Help our members to in field of businesses, to get other ways to alternative sources of finance, and to help them work with society. And in particular here is where education sits. And I'll come also to that in a minute. This is a slide that our chairman used last week during the info day of the joint undertaking in Brussels. And it points it in a very simple term, what is ahead of us and what we must do. And that is to move away from linearity to circularity. And this is what we're after. We must do this. And this is our vision, the circular bio-society in 2015. And the way we do this, and this is an oversimplification of to look at it from a feedstock perspective and introduce circularity. For us, all organic feedstock is eligible. And these, I put them in 4 categories. From the field, say, the agro-based industries, from the forest-based, from the aquatic-based, and bio-waste, and CO2. And these 2 are well developed and well participating in big so far. The marine and aquatic is only emerging, and we expect a lot to come in the coming years from marine and aquatic. And also from bio-waste and CO2, particularly because of upcoming legislation where the collection and separation of waste from municipalities is a must. And of course, we're looking at also taking CO2 and using that as a feedstock. And all of this we pass through biorefineries and making good stuff, bio-based, and you see a number of them here. And this, last but not least, to close the circle, recycle, reuse, degrade, compost, but no waste. Actually, we want to strike out the word waste. We think there's no such thing like waste. So circularity is the name of the game. And what we do is to roll out, to establish, to create the bio-based industry across Europe. And the best way to do so is to accelerate the investments of where innovation really comes to fruition. Because for us, innovation is to turn a good idea into reality. And the reality means an operation, an industrial operation, a commercial operation, so that it provides income for the people who work there and provides also the means to keep investing. And to do so, we are therefore in the next, in this framework program under Horizon Europe, 80% of the budget, the public budget is 1 billion, 80% of that is earmarked for flagship projects and innovation actions demonstrations. These are semi-commercial operations ending at TRL 8, technology readiness level of 8, and 9, as you know, is a full-fledged commercial operation. And the demo is a step before that. This is at 6, 7, and under Horizon Europe, we can also have some demos ending at 8. So we're pushing this, and this is the second call, second program, 2023, and you see for a total budget of 215 and a half, 77 of it is in the flagship and innovation. If you take a look at it, I don't have the time to go in detail, but you see we're up flagship to optimizing forest-based value chains use. My colleague, I'm slapping him in his ears one of those days. I don't want to see change anymore, so I still have to educate him. We are to optimize further forest-based value systems. Retrofitting biorefineries. There are some useful facilities across Europe today that are not being used for many reasons. And we can retrofit these and use them for good things like use them for biorefineries. We are to use packaging and valorizing aquatic biomass. You see, we continue to do this. This is a second flagship level for aquatic biomass waste. And innovation, you see there, some are operations, but the bulk here is product-oriented. Fertilizer, bioplastics, surfactants, and building blocks, and composites. So we're pushing more and more good ideas out of the lab, out of the pilot plants, into the field, spade on the ground for big operations across Europe. And of course, I don't want to downplay the RIA. These are the research innovation actions, TRL levels 4 and 5, and CSAs. These are studies to support all of this. But what we're after is to push into Europe, not only concentrated around here, Northwestern Europe, no, but into Europe, demonstrations and flagship biorefineries. So you see, we're already moving quite a bit. And so the geographical spread for what we're doing is very important in our programs. This is an oversimplified chart that I show to this, and I use it anywhere. I don't really care whether I'm talking to students or professors. I say, this is what we actually do. We would like to work along 3 axes, the least. Because you see there, I'm showing industry, academia, and geography. So we are crossing boundaries of industrial sectors, what I talked about, this dream that we started off now. We're working with academia to cross boundaries of disciplines. We are into transversal, into multidisciplinarity, into at least a level of awareness of adjacent disciplines next to your own discipline, so that you can translate, you can understand each other better in the teams that we have and that we need. Because it is when you bring together differences, different disciplines, different cultures, different people, different genders, that's where innovation really gets started. So this is what we're after. And of course, we're after geography. As I showed in a slide before, we're not sticking to focusing on Northwestern Europe. We're out into all of Europe. And we're not focusing on looking at the central and eastern part of Europe, where you have a huge potential of feedstock. We're not looking at bringing biomass feedstock from the central and eastern part of Europe into Northwestern and have our fun there. This is not the name of the game. We have now this strategic outreach program that we reach out to assist local actors in these countries to benefit from the richness that they have in BioBased. So you see, we have a lot of things here that we're after at the same time. And this is the key thing. To do all this, we need people with the right skills and competences. And back in 2017, we started to think about this. I was then in charge of programming. I said, we can continue to design fantastic facilities, innovative projects, innovative plants. And by the time they start running, maybe in another 5, 6 years, fine, we're up and running. But then who's going to be sustaining them? Who's going to be running them? Who's going to make sure that we continue to improve on them? We need the right people. And with the ongoing changes, we need to start thinking ahead of what kind of people that we need. So we came up with this, we wrote this CSA, Coordinated Support Action in 2018, to identify opportunities to promote careers and research activities in a European bio-based industry. This was deliberately a 1-year project. It was headed or coordinated by the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. The intent for us was to give us information as to where do we stand in terms of skills, provided by universities nowadays, looking at what we think we know today. This is 2018. Okay, and it was pretty interesting, and it came up with, and I cannot go into details, but it shows here the top skills needed by industry by 2030 and beyond. And even though very good CSA, but it was slightly tilted towards Spanish actors, but still the outcome are interested and not incorrect. Let me put it this way. You see, highly on the list, research and innovation, knowledge transfer, get good ideas from the lab out into the field. Personal initiative and entrepreneurship. You see, this word starts coming up now already. Management, how this is business models, to put up sustainable business models, other business models that we used to know and work with in the past, and with different partners. And you see sustainability coming up, and get sustainability into the mindset of the industry actors, which was not always the case in the past, to be very honest. And specialists in some bio-based sectors. So we're not starting from scratch. So this was the first one. Then we wrote another okay, the other thing that for the Eurobio Future did, and you can find this on their website, is they analyzed about 912 programs across Europe. You see them here. And these programs are distributed like this in the different countries. You can click on the country and you see the educational centers that they analyzed. And they looked at what are these centers offering for curricula, looking at what we need. And during that survey, during that study already, some of the actors, industry actors, stated that the current education system does not train the necessary skills required by the industry. And the education program's changing pace is very low and not keeping pace with the change of industry. So this was a first warning, I should say. We wrote another CSA in 2018, and this is to create and interlink bio-based education centers to meet industry's needs of skills and competences. This is out to meet or to create centers and geographically spread so that we can learn. I'm not going to go into details because I understand that somebody's going to talk about this, so I'm going to go away from it. The other thing that we started doing was a program on PhD level. This is a program, Talent for BBI. It's led by UCD, and it started to run last year. It's going to run to there, and we have 10 industry and 8 academic partners in these member states. And the idea is to train future leaders for the bio-based industry. So we're now working at masters and also at PhD. And the idea is to build further on this program and link it with other programs that we have. The other thing that we started doing, I mentioned already the word entrepreneurs. I worked in the chemical industry. When I went to school, entrepreneurship was not something that was in the curricula. To be very honest, you were educated to finish and go join some company and then, make a living. What we need today is that people coming out of the schools, coming out of universities, have an entrepreneurial mindset. Because innovation is turning a good idea into reality, but you need to have the people with the right mindset to do it. That's what entrepreneurship is about. So what we did was we came across this fantastic program. It started in Wageningen and in Denmark, built on Eutrophilia program. It's called the BioBased Innovation Student Challenge. And we adopted it in 2019. And since last year, we are 100% owner of it now. The idea is, the objective, as you see here, is to stimulate and practice entrepreneurship, is to foster the entrepreneurial mindset of students. So if one of the things that, Han, you mentioned a while ago, what kind of mindset? This is definitely one of them. This is one of the things that we need in industry, an entrepreneurial mindset of graduates, and not only at higher education level, but also at vocational education and training level. This program now is aiming at level EQF 6 and 7. And the idea is that we start with national education, where student teams are invited to come up with innovative solutions to a challenge, and the solutions should be bio-based, of course. And you can think of anything, whether it's environmental, social, it's economic, whatever, but it should be innovative, making use of bio-based solutions. And then they run a national competition. The winners proceed to European competition in 2 rounds, and we provide training in between in terms of making a presentation, making a pitch, and making a video, because we would like you to go through a number of steps what an entrepreneur needs to do. So build a business plan. It's not only a good business case, a good idea, but how am I going to finance this? And think about scalability. Is it scalable? Can I bring it on further to into the industry? And you see the way we work now is that it's a 50-50 score between an expert jury where we involve associate members, universities, and the CBU Scientific Committee, and here the States Representatives Group, and again the industry and associate members. The vision that we have for this program is that since we have industry members and non-industry members, that already at the national level, the industry members provide what I call real-time issues, real-time challenges to be resolved by innovative solutions based on bio-based applications. And we can, therefore, within BIC, we can steer it very well, but since last year, or since this year, I should say, we work with ICA, Simon Heath representing ICA, and through ICA we have an opening also to all the other universities that ICA have as a member and we don't have. So even though it's BIC organizing it, it's open for the world, to put it in these words. And you see for this year, I must admit, I forgot the color Iceland. We have 20 countries participating, so we jumped from 7 last year to 20. And thanks to Simon, this is proceeding very well. We're looking at having all of them participate with national competitions. Now, there is one other program that a study that started outside BIC, not by us. And this is a study that was done by the Commission, or commissioned by the European Commission and done by Deloitte et Consortium for Empirica, that you see there. This is a very interesting study. I went through this. It reads very well. It's very usable. I'm not going to go into details. I just want to share with you one table, and this is this one, because they started. They looked also. They projected to the future what are skills needed, and this table came up, and these percentages are in how many online job applications mention these, and you see sky high here. Personal skills and developments, adaptability to change, working in teams. I would say working in diverse teams. I would say here interpersonal skills. But you see, these are all the additional qualities that we are looking for. We agree with this, that we're looking for on top of the being a good biochemist or etc. So even though this doesn't show these disciplines, these are tacitly expected. You know, they must be there. So having said all that, this is a framework that I would like to share with you as we look ahead big. What is it that we're doing now? Or what is it that we're going to do? We must do. Whatever we do, it must be sustainable. The sources that we use as a feedstock, the products that we produce, and the service that we make to share with the people, it must be sustainable. So there must be a mindset of sustainability. What is it? How do we measure it? How do we compare it? We are out to defossilize. We must find standards to compare bio-based with bio-based. Today we compare it only with fossil-based, which is obvious, but we should move away from it. So there's a lot of new things to be done in this field here, but sustainability is key. How we do it. Of course, it must be safe for all of us. It must be efficient in terms of feedstock, in terms of energy, in terms of human capital. And we must apply, apply and obey ethics, regulations. And we would like to be inclusive. Don't let any country or region behind. Impacts. Obviously, we're out to protect and enhance the environment, biodiversity. We don't want any waste. Therefore, we must be circular. So this framework shows you what it is that we as industry must and will go to. And this all needs Innovation. It all needs entrepreneurship. So these are a couple of words that I would like to share with you that must come in the mindset of graduates. So I would like to share and finish with this oversimplified challenge to you. Help us get these skills from your graduates, to have them in their mind. Entrepreneurship, how to set up good business plans, how to realize them, how to scale up these good ideas, how to be able to have to work inter and transdisciplinary, so that they can cooperate and translate ideas among different disciplines. Systemic thinking. You see, the reason I put this thing like this is to force systemic thinking, because everything has to do and is linked with each other. There is no such thing as looking at things separate. Everything you do, if you do something on what, it affects the impact, if whatever. And you see, in the middle here is society, consumers, and economy. And I highlighted education, because without education, this is going to be a long walk. But the better the education, the more we can get to this. So these are the things that I would share with you. Systemic thinking, to be able to set up and involve multi-stakeholders, get the society to participate, environmental insight, technological and digital skills, communicative skills, we keep repeating that, Han, and flexibility to work in different locations. The mobility factor is also very important. Of course, we need specific disciplines like biochemistry and biology and good chemistry. And last but not least, we do have incumbent, and we need to keep these on board. So we need lifelong learning. So this is a challenge I would like to share with you. Thank you.